Basecamp by DMZ is like, in my opinion, I might be biased, but it's the best one. So
what would you say the like hardest part of like starting that like pivoting journey has been?
you put so much time into like an idea and like start the code and stuff, it's really hard to like walk away from that.
They're thinking of pivoting but are a little bit apprehensive about it. What would be your advice to them?
A lot of companies have like pivoted and like turned out okay, so the world isn't gonna end if you pivot. Like you you can do it.
Ayana, thank you for coming on. Yet another base camp finalist. So I'm very, very excited for the conversation. You recently went through a bit of a like an overhaul. So explain that to me a little bit, because the other idea was very, very interesting. An application to help people in the legal system find like sources and references faster. I know that would be sick because I did a law class and that was like one of the worst things, like having to find all those references, whatever, right? But now you have a new idea. So walk me through like that process.
Yeah, so for like the legal ideas, so it was like gonna require like a lot of like tech development and like machine learning and like so much like coding. So what the reason why we pivoted was we wanted to do something that would be quick first, so that we could sort of get the hang of like talking to users and customers, because sometimes what happens is like if you like invest so much time in a product and like maybe for some reason like like users don't want it, and like the tech and stuff, it's sometimes like hard to predict what people like and stuff. And if you can't like create like iterations of it, like start with an MVP and then sort of like iterate, like keep on iterating. But the problem with like law firms and stuff that I was having was because like if they do a source wrong or something, like they could get sued and stuff like that. So if we had like an MVP version that didn't like work quite like that, we could have trouble like building trust with them in the future.
With your idea that was a little more on the ideation side rather than having a full-fledged project, do you feel like you still got a lot out of Basecamp?
It was such an amazing like opportunity. Like I still I'm so when it was over I was so sad. But basically like they had like workshops from all these like people who have already started their company, and it was so good to learn from like their mistakes and like things that you can't really read like on the internet. Like they sort of have been through the process, so like getting to understand like all like the details of starting your own company. And then also I think like before Basecamp, like I didn't really have an idea of like the like tech stuff and like even where to start with like developing like an app and like also all the legal stuff. So it was really helpful. Like I kind of built like some of the first stages of it, and that was like really helpful. And everyone there is just, it's such a great culture. Like all the students and like all the finalists are just so supportive of each other. And if I had like any if I needed any advice on the code, like I could just go ask someone. So it was like a really great community, and also all the facilitators were, it was just an amazing experience.
You've spoken a bit about like the tech challenges that come with like building, and how you've had to like pivot from that. What would you say the like hardest part of like starting that like pivoting journey has been?
Because I did so much like research and I sort of like talked like a lot to like a lawyer, and like I was like really like I really wanted to help her because like the citations were like really paining her, and it was just like it just felt like when you put so much time into like an idea and like start the code and stuff, it's really hard to like walk away from that. So I would say that was the biggest challenge, like just starting fresh.
Pivoting a little bit into you as a entrepreneur, and as a builder, how did that begin?
Throughout like high school, like my really like when I really discovered that I liked like this stuff was when I was participated in like a hackathon, and like that experience of just like, I think it was really exciting just like working in a group and like using your like mind and just trying to come up with like some idea that would, you know, help people. And then like as I started like joining more hackathons and doing more projects, I kind of liked that like in school, we sort of like don't like get the opportunity to like create like as many like projects and like new ideas. So it was just, it felt good to like try and like in a small way like contribute like something to society. um yeah, and I think like, yeah, I just love like some people like love painting or like, you know, making music and stuff. So I guess like that creativity that's involved in like, you know, coming up with like different ideas is like all exciting for me. And
DMZ is attached to like TMU here. So for the most part, it attracted like university students, people in, you know, their second year, third year, fourth year, whatever, right? How was it for you being someone like right out of high school working alongside all these people?
yeah, it was definitely like unexpected because I like didn't like, I didn't know that like I applied for it because like it looked really cool and stuff, and then but everyone was just like so nice and welcoming, and like nobody was like, oh, you're just like a high school student, we're not like everyone was so friendly, and
Yeah.
I got to know people, so that was like great. And I think it was like definitely like a good experience, like trying to like be around like, you know, like older people with like more experience and just trying to learn from them. But there was also like some amazing like people who were like even like younger than me, and they were like doing amazing things, so it was also good to see that.
Going back into your business and the stuff that you're building and working on, what would you say are like the biggest obstacles right now that you're already seeing for like the business?
um I think probably like, I think like a lot of like the legal stuff for startups is really hard because it's like a really high like upfront cost, and like me and my like partner, even though I started that like legal startup before, we're not like experts in that area. So
Yeah.
it's like really hard to like, you know, like do all the, like, you know, figure out what we need. And then I guess like also like the, I mean, I think everything is pretty like challenging when like your first like the tech stuff is like, you know, hard at at the beginning, like, you know, things go wrong all the time. And then like also like, you know, getting yourself out there is like also a challenge, like how are we gonna like scale.
I've been in your shoes where, you know, you're in high school, you're doing entrepreneurship, you're like trying to build business and stuff. What would you say were like the hardest parts of like trying to be entrepreneurial while still in high school?
um yeah, like I guess just like having, because also like grade 12 was like, it's a lot. I mean, I, you know, I can only imagine what university is like though, so I don't know if I'm speaking too soon, but I guess like it was just I think it was just like the time like required to do like your homework and like balancing that with trying to like build your own projects was like definitely like a hard balance. And sometimes like, I mean, obviously like the projects would be more exciting for me, so sometimes I'd like do like spend like all this time on the project and then like have to cram like an hour to study for like a test the next day. So it was tough to find like people who are also interested in like entrepreneurship, because I feel like it's not something that's like known as much or like done as much. So I guess it was hard to find people who were also interested in like the same area. But that changed when I went to Basecamp and met so many like high schoolers who are also interested in that. So
You don't know what you don't know, and obviously you can only build what you like have the skills for and stuff. For you, like, have you felt like somewhat constrained by like your experience level with like stuff like code and like tech and stuff, and how has that like affected the scope of like the business that you can create?
if there's like something that I think is like an amazing idea and I'm then like I kind of try and like learn the code as much as I can to like do that idea, and I guess like it like motivates me to like sort of like learn more. If I had, you know, more experience, like I would have like, you know, come up with like more efficient ways of doing things and stuff. With the like legal thing, like I guess that was like the decision to pivot was like largely like based on like my experience with like coding and stuff. So maybe like I would have still been on doing that idea, but I guess like it's good to, you know, start with something small and, you know, build a project and then, you know, take like small steps towards like, yeah, harder and harder projects.
How much of a difference did school or hackathons make in like your development?
Hackathons like were definitely like very beneficial because it was like the first sort of time like I was exposed to like this area of like entrepreneurship, and like, you know, and a lot of these hackathons, like a lot of like established entrepreneurs would come to judge, and it was like really exciting. And I think like what excited me most about it was like the feeling of, you know, putting something out there in the world that was yours. And yeah, it was just like a thrilling feeling. So hackathons helped a lot, and then also of course like Basecamp. I think that was one of the biggest like, you know, like reasons why I sort of have like gotten more into entrepreneurship. And then I did this like other summer program that was like also like, you know, really neat for people, for entrepreneurs. So I guess like maybe like I feel like less like high school and just like the class part of it, but like the friend, like, you know, like communicating with others, like
Yeah.
that I learned, and then also like the different programs that you can join as a high school student had like a bigger impact on me.
What is your advice to other tech-minded entrepreneurial high schoolers? Like, what are the things that they should be working on, you know, keeping their eye out for while they're completing high school?
First off, like I'm no like expert, like I'm still sort of figuring this stuff out myself, but I guess like if I could like go back, probably like I join like a lot of like entrepreneurship like programs, because there's, you know, so many for like high schoolers, and that has had like a really big impact because you get to meet like other people who are also interested in entrepreneurship. And then also like if you're having trouble like knowing where to start and stuff, like there's often like experienced mentors who can like give you a lot of guidance. And like Basecamp by DMZ is like, in my opinion, I might be biased, but it's the best one. So yeah, that's definitely what I would recommend. Like join Basecamp. Sometimes it's hard for like young people to be taken seriously sometimes because people are like, oh, like, you know, I mean, most people I've met are encouraging, but I feel like sometimes like we're scared to like we feel that we're too young to like start something like this. But I guess like just, you know, I don't know, this is generic advice, but believe in yourself, like you can do it. Yeah.
Yeah, people who want to be inside of like business and tech. You know, here in TMU, we have CS, but we also have like business and technology management. You know what I mean? So people who are kind of looking at those fields and so on, and are thinking, okay, well, you know, I need to start with like something, you know, a language or whatever, right? What's your advice in that regard?
There's like a lot of like resources like for like even like little kids like that can like want to like, you know, MIT App Inventor is like something for like middle schoolers that even like they can build an app. So I guess like trying to like go to like the most like basic like web like app builders, and like the process is like so like, you know, they make it like really like straightforward. There I still run into like many problems, but I guess like that sort of helped because I built like a few projects on Python, and I was like, I, you know, just those like those projects like took me so long, so
Yeah.
I can only imagine like a whole app. So if you like if you like go on these like there's also like no code like builders and stuff, so like that's
Yeah.
also like an option for people. But I think, yeah, and I think also like just like using like AI, like ChatGPT, and be like, what's the best way to like build this app?
Yeah.
That helped. That helped a lot. So,
Nice. You took a gap, a break from school, out of high school. Not a lot of people do that, but it is becoming more normalized, which I appreciate. And I like the more people are actually considering, taking that gap, and not feeling like pressured that they must go to like post-secondary and stuff. So what went into that decision, if you don't mind sharing?
yeah, it was definitely like a tough sort of decision, like, but to be honest, like I'm really happy like I made it, because like I think like in the like beginning, like there's like a lot of pressure, because sort of everyone's like going to, well, not everyone, but a lot of like people around you are going to university, and you're kind of like taking a bit of a more like unconventional like path, so you're questioning like, is this the right thing to do and stuff. But I think like it's good, because like you can always go back to university. Like there's the worst thing that can happen is like you waste a year, but like that's not, everything's reversible. But I think yeah, for me, like taking the gap year, like it helped me like work on like all these projects I had that like I, like I didn't have time for at school. So I think that's been like really really great. And also like I got to get like some experience, like work experience, so that just like helps me like think about like what I want to do. And yeah, I've learned a lot, and I think like I personally like needed like some time to think about like what I want, like, cuz it's like a pretty big decision, and so like I thought like taking a little bit of time like can't hurt. And
Yep.
just like making sure that I'm making the right decision.
What does the future hold for Ayana, the builder, the entrepreneur? What are kind of your goals for your gap year, and like what are you hoping to like kind of achieve with it?
Okay, that's a deep question. I like it. Yeah, like that's still something I'm always trying to figure out. But right now, like one of my goals is to have like this business like up and running, to create like something that a lot of people use, maybe even profitable. That would be good.
Yep.
Much like you were in like I feel like I have like many different interests, so yeah, like I applied to like this like a few programs that would like let me like live like in different like places in the world, or like in Canada. So yeah, I like want to travel and just like get like new perspectives. When you spend your whole life in like one like geographic area, sometimes like everyone like thinks the same way, so I haven't like really like lived anywhere like else, so I guess I want to try and like aim to get like a different experience.
What would be your advice to people who are working on something, and maybe they've been working on it for however long, it's been seeming like a really good idea, they're excited, the people around them are excited for it, but they're getting the feeling that this isn't quite the right fit. There's a better way of doing this maybe, and they're thinking of pivoting but are a little bit apprehensive about it. What would be your advice to them?
I think like at the end of the day, like your business like best, so if like I think like you have to sort of take advice from like people around you and be open to that. But like if you sort of like are more excited about like a different idea, or if you like have if you have the knowledge like that things won't work out, or and you have like good reasons for it, then I think like just trust yourself. I think even like think of it as sort of like a positive, because like you gained all that experience from like trying like the other idea, so now that you're starting fresh, you can like apply all those lessons. And yeah, like I think like a lot, like, you know, a lot of companies have like pivoted and like turned out okay, so the world isn't gonna end if you pivot. Like you can do it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, well, Ayana, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. I appreciate you taking the time and talking about your experiences, talking about your business a little bit. And hopefully, you know, soon that gets launched and the community can check that out.
Yes, and also like thanks so much for having me on, and like best of luck with like your business too, and yeah.
Appreciate it.